Well, it's a great pleasure to welcome to the My Broadband Cloud Conference 2021 Lexmark. And Nicholas Reed is the Managing Director at Lexmark South Africa. He joins us for this segment of the Cloud Conference, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you. How are you doing, firstly, sir?
Very well, Aki. I'm very well indeed. Thank you very much for inviting me along today.
Good to be with you. Well, interesting times we're going through, aren't we? I mean, when you look at how business has evolved, how we're all working remotely, and I guess a business like Lexmark, which traditionally started in the printer business in Lexington in the USA, a fascinating organization. And you two have evolved, and every other business has evolved in digitizing and looking towards the future. You look at businesses, and the question I want to ask you is, why should businesses be investing in cloud print services? Because that's the next evolution of printing, especially when print volumes are decreasing.
Yes, I think it's fair to say that print volumes are declining, and organizations are certainly looking to save money. But if you go beyond that and underneath it and look at where print volumes are declining, you begin to see that in the head office or kind of centralized environment. What we aren't seeing is the print volumes decline in the more distributed environments where many of our customers are still kind of printing heavy volumes. Why you should invest in the cloud, I think it's important to understand that kind of cloud can help you with that digital migration in the central environment, and can also assist in the areas of the business which are still requiring kind of to be able to produce paper-based documents.
All right, so it's quite interesting. So it's really adding that agility and flexibility to an organization. And it's not even a question if you should be going this route. You've got to go this route so you can add that agility. Even though those volumes might be coming down, I think that you're adding more value in other ways within your organization. Nick, when you look at the key areas where businesses still need to invest in printing products, for examples, and solutions, where would you say those would be right now?
I think essentially it's where print volumes have remained consistent. From what we've seen, as I say, with our customers, the print volumes have remained consistent where they interact with their customers, where they make their money, essentially. An example of that might be pharmacies, for instance, where you see pharmacies still printing thousands of pages, sometimes a day, around invoicing for their customers there. Certainly over the recent pandemic, the volumes have actually increased there. I think from a retail perspective, you're still seeing many complex paper-based processes still existing as an organization looks to take the goods from the manufacturing site right through to the end retailer. In government, you see it in, for example, in the labour centres where they still need to print high volumes of supporting information for the general public who use their services.
Okay, now that's interesting. I mean, you just touched on the pandemic earlier. I mean, COVID-19 and work from home culture. I mean, we know how that's changed everything around us. How has it changed print services? And has it changed print services and how businesses are using the work from home example? How's that impacted your particular business?
Well, I think it's clear that a lot of organizations are looking to rationalize on their corporate real estate. And if you've got less office space, then you have essentially less printers. So we have seen an impact from that perspective, certainly, as I say, in the kind of head office environment. I think what we've also seen is an acceleration towards digital transformation, which obviously reduces paper. If you've got a digital process replacing a paper process, then less paper is required. What we've also seen, though, is an uptick in some of the scanning processes. So our devices are obviously not only printers, but they're multifunctional devices, which means that we're able to use the devices to scan information and use it as a digital on-ramp into these digital processes that an organization has now adopted as they move to the working from home perspective.
And I think that's really key. What you just touched on now is that, we all have a hard copy of something somewhere that needs to be digitized and scanned. And I often think that many organizations, don't look at that part of the equation seriously, the scanning part and digitizing those documents efficiently. And you guys seem to do that pretty well. How does Lexmark Cloud Services address these new printing trends, like the one you just touched on right now? How do you guys address these new trends?
Yeah. I think really the cloud services model can form part of an organization's digital migration strategy. So, for example, linking in that the head office environment with the distributed environment, using the platforms that we have in the remote locations to get information back to head office, I think is key. And I think with the cloud-based model, the subscription model of that, around that allows you to kind of scale up and scale down, so to manage your costs more effectively. Adopting the cloud infrastructure can enable you to reduce your overheads and costs. But importantly, and to answer your question more fully, it provides visibility around that new kind of hybrid environment. And from a user perspective, I think it allows users to have that consistent experience wherever they are, whether they're at home base, whether in their office, or whether they're in the remote location.
So, I mean, Lexmark Cloud Services are cloud native rather than a lift and shift solution, right? Now, what does this specifically mean for businesses who use these kind of services?
Yeah, I think it's an important distinction to draw about it not simply being a kind of lift and shift solution. Lexmark are known, I think, as an engineering company for our products and services and solutions. And look, what we've done here is built a true multi-tenant service, which is scalable, highly available, and secure as well. It's not been a case of simply uplifting what we've done from an on-premise perspective and putting that solution in a kind of private cloud and hosting it and calling it our cloud solution. I think what it means is that we undertake all the heavy lifting in terms of the patching and upgrades of the core system. From our customers, it also means that they can adopt this scalable model, which suits their current business infrastructure requirements. So in terms of if there's kind of acquisition or demerger or outsourcing, all of that impacts the technical infrastructure requirements that they've got, and that scalable solution kind of fits in with that for them.
So when you look at Lexmark as a brand, what sets the Lexmark brand apart from the other print solution providers, for example? I mean, we've touched on the cloud, for example, and the ability that you have to scale and adapt with the products that you have, but what sets you guys apart?
Well, coming back to the cloud, I think scaling is not only important from a kind of end user perspective, but also the offering that we have. So cloud, you might think about just being available to the very large organizations, the big enterprises that have thousands or tens of thousands of devices. However, by working with our partners and opening up our kind of engineered solution to our partners, we're able to offer this solution to much smaller organizations as well, ones that have, in theory, down to just one or two devices. I think that's a key differentiator. Also, something that I think is extremely important and something that our customers are aware of is that if you have an existing Lexmark fleet of devices, it doesn't need to be refreshed if you want to kind of invest in the cloud. We can overlay that into the existing Lexmark fleet. And actually, equally, we can also introduce other manufacturers' fleets into the cloud environment. So you don't need to look at a large printer refresh in order to take advantage of some of the things we've just been talking about, Aki.
Very interesting. Now, we often hear about security and, right across the platform. I mean, it's really been there's been an acceleration of security breaches, as we've seen during the COVID pandemic. And I guess security on a network from every aspect is important, and print security is equally as important. It's a big concern for businesses. And how does the Lexmark Cloud service ensure that there's a premium security level for business users?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I rarely have a conversation now with any customer or partner that doesn't kind of include security. I mean, just to be clear as well, from a Lexmark perspective, many of the security features that you'd find on a modern day computer operating system come standard with Lexmark devices. So it's not an option or an add-on, it's all within the infrastructure and the device. From a security protocol and standards perspective, our teams work with customers, InfoSec or IT security teams, to build a solution based on a kind of zero trust security model, which is, as you'll appreciate and know, is required really as a minimum by the CISOs today.
Yeah, zero trust, so important. Well, listen, I mean, it's absolutely fascinating just to watch the evolution of printing. You know, nothing stays stagnant in the world that we're living in today. Everyone is digitizing, everyone's adapting, and it's great to see what Lexmark is doing in the cloud space when it comes to printing. And Nicholas Reed, the managing director at Lexmark South Africa, thank you for joining us at this year's My Broadband Cloud Conference. Appreciate your time, sir.